And we're live. Are we live?
Yeah, we are live.
Okay, very well. Welcome back to Poetry Generator. I'm your host, Thomas.
I'm Henry.
I'm Dominik, replacing Orla.
And I'm Leo.
Yeah, damn. Crazy.
And today we're going to be talking about, we're going to be continuing our conversation from last week, talking about the English Romantic poets. So for those of you who were lucky enough to tune in last week, we covered Coleridge and Wordsworth. And now we're going to be covering, quite a few figures. William Blake. Who else, guys?
John Keats.
Byron, Lord Byron.
And Percy Shelley.
There you go. Not to be confused with Mary Shelley.
Yep.
I actually have a question.
Sure.
Why is he always called Lord Byron? Is his first name Lord?
No,
His
he has
first name
a title.
is George, but I just think that the whole aristocratic part of it is part of his aura, as part of his character. And
I
so
see.
Everyone wants to call him Lord, because if you just called him George, he wouldn't be,
He
wouldn't
also
be
was a lord, though.
He was also
Yeah.
a lord, but he wouldn't be like the Lord Byron.
Yeah.
If you just called him George. So
You know, it reminds me a little of Marquis de Sade. Can we get some music in the background?
Yeah, it's my Spotify.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It reminds me of Marquis de Sade, who apparently actually wasn't a marquis, he was a count. So we should be calling him Count Sade, or Count de Sade, rather. But okay, so in typical format, we're going to be covering, the lives of these figures, and then some of their work, and what makes it interesting and special. So, as I mentioned, all of them are Romantic English poets, meaning that they were born, late 1700s, maybe early 1800s, and they at least began writing, let's say, in the mid to early 1800s. And their work was a reaction of sorts against the industrialization of England, or of Britain. And so all of their works, as with Coleridge and Wordsworth, there's themes of kind of a Adamite return to nature sentiment and rejection of this sort of automation, industrialization, and urbanization that came to characterize English society during this period. So it would be nice if we can get some music, but we can get right into it. Who would like to go first and educate us about their chosen figure?
Is music playing?
Is there music? I'm not hearing it.
My headphones aren't working at all, so I've got no idea.
That's weird. It's playing from my phone.
I can hear it. It's
It's
faint,
playing from my
but
phone. It's playing from my phone.
Okay, well,
Oh,
we
from
don't, we
your
don't,
we'll
Well,
work it
I
out.
mean,
we don't need to worry about the music
that
too
can be
much.
fine.
You know,
if it plays from the speaker.
yeah, I'm just hoping
It
it's
goes
not
into the
it's not
microphones.
too loud for the audience, but right, okay, no music. That's not a problem.
Turn down the aux in case it comes on. We
It'd
don't
be
want to deafen
funny-
people.
it'd be funny if we can't hear it, but it's full volume, and then the conversation's drowned out, right? Okay, so I don't know, Leo, you want to go first? You covered, who was it? You covered Shelley.
Yeah.
And that's a figure, maybe this is something we should do before we get into these figures and their lives and work, is our personal experience with them. Shelley is somebody I've actually never read.
Really?
Unlike the other three. I've wanted to. I've never got around to it yet. So,
That's interesting.
when was the first time you, heard of him and then, I guess, read him?
Heard of and read, I think, will probably be the same time. Quite rare for when we talk about our personal encounters with these poets. This is the only time I've read and heard of the person at the same time, and it's the same with Byron. It's GCSE poetry. English forced these two upon quite a lot of people, I think.
And for our international viewers, who are no doubt numerous,
yes,
GCSE is what? Is something that Brits take when they're 16, 15?
Middle
16.
school? So it's middle school.
Middle school,
So
okay.
kind of somewhere between middle school and high school, I guess.
Okay.
But there was in English you had to study some poetry, and there were some different anthologies for different people and different exam boards. But I had to do the love and relationships one, which included Love's Philosophy by Percy Shelley and When We Two Parted by Lord Byron. So
Okay.
I came across both of them with that. But I've also read quite a lot of those two in the book I've got of the Golden Treasury of English Verse.
Yeah, and what a treasure trove that poetry book has proven to be, huh?
It really has.
Yeah.
Great purchase.
I will have to get myself a copy. So, why don't you tell us a little bit more about his life? When was he born? What kind of life
Yep.
did he have?
So he was born in 1792. He was born in Sussex. He had a very, very short life. Died in 1822, only 29
Well,
when he died. I think he had a pretty sheltered, happy childhood. I think he was part of a fairly wealthy family. He was fairly upper class. Quite interestingly, he as a schoolboy was a lot more interested in science than literature, I think. There's quite a funny story of him blowing up a fence at his school with gunpowder somehow.
okay.
And when he went to uni, he essentially turned his room into a laboratory. Didn't go to any lectures. He just read and did experiments. So he's
Interesting.
quite a strange guy.
Yeah, he is.
And he was bullied quite extensively at Eton due to kind of non-conformity. He wasn't like the other kids at all. Yeah, I think he was bullied pretty severely.
Okay.
But he wrote a lot and published a lot of stuff very early in his life. So he completed his first novel in his final year at Eton.
Okay.
So I think this is around 1809.
Okay.
So somewhere around then. So he's only about 17, maybe just turned 18 at this point.
Incredible.
And then I'm guessing the summer before he goes to uni, him and his sister Elizabeth publish a collection of poems, and he also writes a Gothic novel. So by the time he's at uni, he's written 2 novels and published a collection of poetry. He's already pretty prolific. And so he goes to Oxford. I think within about a year, is forced to leave. Him and his best friend at uni have some...
Oh, he's expelled.
He's expelled.
Interesting. Is it from the this experiments gone awry in his
It's
laboratory
not
that you've
actually.
mentioned?
It's not anything to do with that. It's to do with kind of strong radical beliefs that him and this friend Thomas Hogg developed together.
Okay.
I think Hogg is an influence on Shelley. He already has these beliefs, and then Shelley kind of
Sure.
begins to agree with him.
And are they anarchist? And what exactly is the sentiment here?
I think most of it is anti-Christian. I think that's the reason it's so...
That's interesting.
So the main reason he gets kicked out is together they write, I think, kind of a short political tract, and it's called The Necessity of Atheism, which, at the time isn't wise, probably.
Uh-huh.
And the worst part about it is he decides to mail it to all of the university's bishops and every single one of the heads of colleges. So all of the authority figures.
What the hell is he thinking?
I think he was
Pardon
just
the
trying
pun.
to be a rebel. I think
Yeah,
he,
but
he
That's kind of aura, though. No.
yeah. I mean, he
No,
wasn't
it's-
going to his lectures, so
Okay, well.
I don't really. I don't know what his goal was with it, but he got kicked out.
He was kind of like a proto-redditor.
Yes, yeah. He's
Interesting. Okay, and so he continues to write poetry after.
Yeah. He writes, I mean, a lot of short poems, also a couple of longer ones, but they come quite quickly at this point, and he's got a few collections published within the next few years. But a lot of his life at this point is kind of revolving around love and marriage. He also has carried on with the political element. He's
Okay.
writing a lot of politically charged poems. I think he's very critical of the Napoleonic Wars, things like that.
Critical
Okay.
on which side?
I actually don't know, to be fair.
Seems like he would like
Probably-
Napoleon, because Napoleon was,
Yeah,
you know.
maybe he would. I'm not 100% sure. That I'll have to look into that at some point. But he marries a 16-year-old called Harriet Westbrook. The same year he gets expelled from Oxford, 1811. So, I mean, he's not ridiculously. He's 19, but still, you know, by today's standards, it seems quite dodgy. The worst part is their marriage deteriorates quite quickly.
Oh, who could have guessed?
After they've had a daughter, though. And he then falls in love with another 16-year-old. This time it's 3 years later, so it's a little bit harder to justify.
Okay.
And this is Mary Godwin. So she is the daughter of Mary Wollstonecraft, the famous political thinker.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I think it's Robert Goodwin is the father, who's also...
Pamphleteer.
I think he's a writer of some kind. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know much about him at all, to be honest.
Okay.
But again, have kids together, but he is not an easy person to love by the sounds of it. He is having visions and hallucinations all the time around this period. Straight away they kind of make friends with Byron, and they're living around Europe as much as they're living in England. And
did he have a trade, or was he financially successful from his writing?
He wasn't financially successful from his writing. No, I think for the most part he's got some family wealth, but there's also Mary Shelley's family wealth.
Right, okay.
And so I think he's pretty set. One thing that's important to note about him, really, really the opposite of Byron, he is not successful during his lifetime. He's not known at all.
Okay.
He's known among his peers and critics. That's it.
Okay.
And with his death, some people start to take notice, but it's not really until kind of the next generation of English poets with like Robert Browning, Thomas Hardy. It's not until then that he gets any real recognition.
Yeah, mid-Victorian kind of.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. In the interest of time, I would like to hear some of his work.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
I read. This is. I mentioned that he wasn't an easy person to love. And whilst they're in Italy, I think around 1820 they moved to Naples, him and Mary, and they're both quite depressed at this point. But he's almost suicidal.
Okay.
And this is. I think I remember the page.
It's funny. The more we learn about the lives of these poets,
the less glamorous.
The kind of like refusal to take on responsibility or a traditional career, and the unhappiness that it inevitably leads to becomes increasingly clear.
Yeah.
But okay, well, nonetheless, I'm looking forward to hearing his work.
Yeah. Here we go. It's called Stanzas Written in Dejection near Naples.
Okay.
The sun is warm, the sky is clear, the waves are dancing fast and bright. Blue isles and snowy mountains wear the purple noon's transparent light. The breath of the moist air is light, around its unexpanded buds, like many a voice of one delight. The winds, the birds, the ocean's flood, the city's voice itself is soft like solitude's. I see the deep's untrampled floor with green and purple seaweeds strewn. I see the waves upon the shore like light dissolved in star showers thrown. I sit upon the sands alone, the lightning of the noontide ocean is flashing round me, and a tone arises from its measured motion. How sweet did any heart now share in my emotion. Alas, I have nor hope nor health, nor peace within, nor calm around, nor that content surpassing wealth the sage in meditation found, and walked with inward glory crowned, nor fame nor power, nor love nor leisure. Others I see whom these surround, smiling they live and call life pleasure. To me that cup has been dealt in another in measure. Yet now despair itself is mild, even as the winds and waters are. I could lie down tired like a child, and weep away the life of care, which I have borne and yet must bear. till death like sleep might steal on me, and I might feel in the warm air my cheek grow cold, and hear the sea breathe o'er my dying brain its last monotony.
Well, there's certainly a bleakness to that.
Yeah.
Beautiful imagery,
Yeah.
no doubt, but it is. I really should read more so that I have a better sense of him and his work, but it's far more personal than anything that we were able to find in Wordsworth or Coleridge last week. For being a romantic poet, this is verging on confessional.
Well, Wordsworth was very sort of personal as well.
I
I
suppose.
do think that. I mean, I'm only really familiar with Byron and Shelley out of these, and I feel that both of them really. Everything they write is about their own love. They're both. They both love a lot of women.
Yeah.
And they both kind of have this aching longing within their writing. And from what I've read, other than maybe Ozymandias by Shelley, there's nothing that strays far beyond their personal experience.
That's interesting. Well, that's quite a contrast and maybe a good transition to the poet that I chose. Blake is almost entirely concerned with things outside of himself, namely the mystical and the philosophical and the religious. So he was born, I guess earlier than Shelley. He was born in 1757. And
That's quite a lot earlier.
Yeah, it is. Well, yeah, he's of the same generation as Wordsworth and Coleridge.
Yeah.
The Lake poets. Not that he was a member of that circle, but he grew up lower middle class in London. His father was a shopkeeper. His mother didn't work. He had 7 siblings, so, very much middle class London family of the time. Certainly not free from poverty. He was quite shy and introverted from all accounts, and interestingly, like Shelley, you mentioned, he also seems to have suffered from visions. Now, what this means, I don't know, and I don't think scholars know, but it could mean that he's schizophrenic. It could mean that he was just a daydreamer. I don't know, but either way, he seems to have been somebody with a big imagination who got sort of caught up in it. And he was also very well read and studious kid. He read the Bible extensively, and it was probably the single greatest influence on him. He was very Christian, although, as we'll get into later, he did have his own sort of mystical take on Christianity. He was also very influenced, perhaps fittingly, by John Milton's Paradise Lost. So, in Paradise Lost, you have one of the main themes, which even the title alludes to, is this idea that humanity has kind of fallen from grace and expelled from the Garden of Eden, and we are marked by sin. And this idea of innocence and experience, as Blake puts it, or we could say innocence and sin, or good and evil, really does appear continuously throughout Blake's work. He doesn't have any formal education, interestingly enough. He was homeschooled by his mother in London, and but he was a voracious reader, and he did learn a trade. He became an engraving apprentice at the age of 14. So he made a wide variety of things, engravings. He made some print art, and then later he got into painting, and he made paintings in the Romantic style of the time, mostly depicting mythological scenes, and very, almost you might say, psychedelic, otherworldly scenes of spirits. That's very interesting art, and his poetry today he's mostly known for that in his poetry, and his poetry is very much of the same vein. So he wrote, not a huge body of work, but he wrote. Is there somebody cheering in the hall? What's that sound?
Yeah.
Okay.
They
Well,
were
we're
nominated, I think. So.
All right. Well, he wrote Songs of Innocence in 1789, and then, which is a collection of poetry, and then Songs of Experience in 1794. And very fitting that one comes before the other. But yeah, this theme I've mentioned is totally runs throughout his work, and I think you'll see it in the poem that I've chosen. But he was very interested in this idea that, which you kind of, it's kind of like in fashion at the time. If you think of like Aleister Crowley or Oscar Wilde, who of course came a little bit later than him, but this idea that like it is only through experiencing life and seeing all that it has and sin and mistake that you come to wisdom, and that you can then in turn kind of know good from evil, and then go move towards salvation. So I guess you could call that the process of maturing or maturation, but that's something that he was very much interested in.
And I guess you could say that Shelley and Byron never really talk about that because they die too young to kind of...
Well, that's an interesting difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're both... what age does Blake die? Do you know?
He dies in his mid-60s. So which is a full life for somebody who's born working class in London in this period. And, you know, he doesn't... he is... like you mentioned that these people were politically motivated, and Shelley was very interested in the Napoleonic Wars and the politics of his time. Blake was also interested in that stuff, no doubt. He did support the American Revolution. He supported the French Revolution.
Yeah.
Although in the case of the French Revolution, he then later voiced his disapproval of what it turned into with the Reign of Terror, as anybody would have. But he, you know, from what I was able to find about him as a person, he struck me as a pretty reasonable, wise person. But very much a mystic, very much somebody who's interested in huge philosophical ideas, and nothing that's particularly well, I should say not much that's particularly topical to his place in time. Although he was, in the very broad sense, romantic, in that he was kind of not so modern and interested in this industrial kind of logical scientific worldview that had taken hold, but instead wanted to preserve the mysticism and magic left in the world. So in that sense, he's very much romantic. Let's see here. The poem I've selected is The Tiger. It appears in Songs... Ooh, that's a good question. I actually don't know which collection it appears in. It appears in one of either Songs of Experience or Songs of Innocence. And it's become probably his most famous poem. His work in general was not really well known during his lifetime. He wasn't... he didn't associate with any other romantic poets during his lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't really appear that he had any friends at all that were in literary circles, or that were famous artists of one sort or another. It appears that he was just friends with everyday people, and minor artists. It was in 1860, again, mid-Victorian times, about a generation after he died, that a man named Alexander Gilchrist wrote Life of William Blake, which then made him into a sort of literary celebrity, which he remains to this day. So I think without further ado, we can go ahead and read The Tiger. Let's see here. All right. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant depths or skies burnt the fires of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain? In what surface was thy brain? In the anvil, what dread gasp? Dare it deadly terrors clasp? When the stars threw down their spears, and watered heavens with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? Maybe he pronounces symmetry. You could turn the others' mics back on. Thank you, Henry. Yeah. And so right away, this is about well, seeming. I mean, I'm sure everybody has their own interpretation of it, but to me, this very much seems like God looking down on His creation and saying, this is something I've created, which is deviating from natural order. This is something sinful,
Which I guess links back to Paradise Lost.
which links to his two biggest influences, Paradise Lost and the Bible, and it links to his main philosophy, if you will, which is a mystic approach to this idea of innocence and experience. And I think for this reason, this is maybe something we can get into after Dominik and Henry have spoken about their chosen poets, but I think for this reason he does actually remain a very relevant person today, because these are such eternal themes. But without further ado, I'd like to hear about who you guys have chosen. So who wants to go?
You want me to go?
Okay, Henry, go on.
So, with Shelley and Keats, they have quite similar lives, actually, because both of them died very young, and Keats died even more young, so he died at the age of 25.
When was he born?
He wrote... Oh, sorry. He was born in 1795.
Okay, so very similar lifetimes.
So I don't want to interrupt, but there is the way in which Shelley died.
Oh, yeah, we never mentioned.
It's very interesting. Maybe we should.
Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah,
I will just quickly talk about this.
Yeah.
So this is when they're living in Italy. He's corresponding with Byron very frequently, and at one point he takes out a boat that's been made specifically for him.
Poorly made.
Poorly. Well, it's designed for different circumstances. I think it's kind of more gentle sailing. But he takes it to try and meet Byron in another town on the Italian coast. And he's on the ship with two other men, neither of whom can sail at all, really. And they head straight into a storm. So there's three complete novices in the middle of quite an angry ocean. And they are knocked off, and Shelley's body is found, I think, 10 days later.
Oh.
Quite a few interesting things happen straight after. He's cremated, but his heart doesn't burn because it's been calcified. I think Mary Shelley wanted to keep his heart, but wasn't allowed to for some reason. And my favourite thing I found about him was a Tory paper in London called the Courier said when they've learned of his death, Shelley, the writer of some infidel poetry, has been drowned. Now he knows whether there is no God. Now he knows whether there is God or no. It's quite funny that.
That is funny.
The only thing they can think to say of him is, well.
Yeah, that's funny.
Your views were bad.
Well, we're doing pretty good for time, so I'm going to quickly jump in, Henry. I'm sorry, and then we'll hear about Byron.
So...
Well, no, I just want to say quickly. Blake died, like I said, in kind of old age, well, near old age, let's say. And he was sick and he knew he was going to die, so he was surrounded by his wife. And he was like writing poetry and making paintings on his deathbed.
Wow.
And his wife was like, William, please, you're overworking yourself. And he was like, I can see the end is coming anyways. And he was having these mystic visions. And he was like, I need to get this out. And he kept on writing. And then obviously, eventually he died. And there was a newspaper that reported on it. And it said, he died in a most glorious manner. He said that he was going to that county, to that country he had all his life wished to see, and expressed himself happy and hoping for salvation through Jesus Christ. Just before he died, his countenance became fair, his eyes brightened, and he burst out singing of the things he saw in heaven he was approaching.
So there's
a great contrast here.
Yes,
there's a great
atheist and a believer.
Yeah, there's a great contrast here.
And a pious believer. So.
Yeah, and a mystic at that. Okay, sorry, Henry. Please go on.
John Keats was a person who led for lack of a better word, quite a miserable life. He had a quiet intellect, and he wasn't as sort of as outspoken as the other few people. So his one of his brothers died in infancy, and then sort of his parents were sort of innkeepers, and they were not. He wasn't born into like a upper class family, so he couldn't go to like Eton like the other people. And he was not at Oxford or Cambridge. He was at King's College London. He was training as a surgeon actually.
Ah.
So that's the same sort of thing with he was more down the science stream, even though he never really liked it that much. I think he was sort of doing it more for the money and the fact that a lot of his family died of tuberculosis. And surgeons were sort of they played a large part in his life. Yeah, his father died from falling off a horse. His mother remarried 2 months later, and then died of tuberculosis.
Well, that's what she gets for 2 months.
Yeah, 2 months that's crazy.
Yeah, and then she appointed 2 guardians to look after him, and then they had some money betrothed to their children, but the guardians didn't tell them about it and just kept the money.
Oh man,
Classic.
It was a lot of money for the time as well. It would have changed his life.
Oh really?
Yeah, he was struggling with money throughout his entire life.
Oh no.
Yeah, so it was it was really miserable. But then over time he became more passionate about poetry, and he told his remaining family that he was pursuing poetry more, I guess. And he was kind of a prodigy because he wrote all his. It was sort of his miracle year when he was 23, and he wrote his odes, ode to a Grecian urn and stuff.
Okay.
He had a few sort of intellectual ideas. So one of them was the concept of negative capability, which is sort of a theme across a lot of his poetry, which is sort of I guess a Kierkegaardian theme.
Okay.
It's the idea that if you witness some mystery or like sort of religious epiphany in life, that you shouldn't apply rationality to it, and that you should just appreciate the enigma of it. And that was kind of his
Very phenomenological.
yeah.
Is,
That's his theme.
When was Kierkegaard writing? Was it earlier in the 1700s?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mid 1700s.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was kind of like he was embracing sort of the absurdity and just the pure mystery.
Do we know if Keats ever read Kierkegaard?
I don't think so.
Oh, fair enough.
I don't suppose so.
Kierkegaard got translated pretty early. A lot of people knew about him pretty early on. So
There's a chance he would have.
yeah, it's pretty likely.
Yeah.
Yeah. He died at the age of 25, as I said, but he got his mother got tuberculosis, and then was in immense suffering for like 7 months, and they sent him to Rome so he can live out the rest of his days in relative comfort. But when he got there, it was winter.
Oh.
And the ship ride there was apparently really bad. So it was this guy is just
He had no luck throughout his whole life.
I mean
Wow.
Damn, that's crazy about the money. That's very
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that all of them, other than Blake, end up in Rome at some point. by the sounds of it as
Well, you know what they say about all roads. That wasn't even funny.
No, that was pretty good. No, I liked it.
Was it? Was it
Yeah,
good?
it is
Okay.
good.
Well, so did he have a trade? What did he do for his?
No, his trade was being a surgeon. But
Sorry, I misunderstood. Okay, so he continued. So he actually finished his education in science, and he continued to be a
King's College
surgeon in addition to being a poet.
No, so he dropped it.
Okay, well,
he sort of diminished it a bit, and he sort of committed to poetry more. But he was struggling with money.
Okay, but he actually did practice as a surgeon prior to switching to poetry.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
He had 2 relationships in his life, and they were not marriages or anything. They were just like sort of like people he loved, and there was this girl, and he really liked her, and then he got tuberculosis, and he went to Rome, and then
What a bloody bad luck that is, huh?
and then he wrote like this miserable letter, which is do you want me to read it?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
My love has made me selfish. I cannot exist without you. I am forgetful of everything but seeing you again. My life seems to stop there. I see no further. You have absorbed me. I have a sensation at the present moment as though I was dissolving. I should be exquisitely miserable without the hope of seeing you. I have been astonished that men could die martyrs for religion. I have shuddered at it. I shudder no more. I could be martyred for my religion. Love is my religion. I could die for that. I could die for you.
Mm.
Well, that's sweet, I guess.
Yeah.
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 At least he like.
And is this in his dying days or like his last year or so?
It was before he got it. And then, by the way,
Okay.
you know what's the most screwed up thing?
What's that?
Because obviously he trained to be a surgeon and he died of tuberculosis, right?
Mm-hmm.
He understood his own death.
Mm.
And
Yeah, of course.
So one of his famous quotes is like he coughed up some blood and he's like, "Oh, this drop of blood is my end."
Mm.
Yeah.
Foreboding.
Yeah.
So much for remaining blissfully ignorant and experiencing life as it comes and not questioning it, huh?
Mm.
Yeah. Anyways, he had 1 year where he proliferated in writing because he was not a person who like worked like for decades, like sharpening. He didn't have the time to do that, but he was just really natural talent at it, I guess. So he just bloomed really early, and yeah. This is Ode to a Grecian Urn, and it is follows the theme of embracing the mystery of life and stuff, which is a theme throughout all of his poetry. So I'll read. This is quite long, so.
We're doing actually pretty good for time. So if it's not too long, feel free to read the full thing.
Okay, sorry. Give me a sec.
Yeah. Or if you want, just read like your favorite fragment.
No. I'll
You just read the complete
you've got
works.
ages. Yeah. Read everything he wrote. He wasn't alive for that long.
We have 22 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thou still unravished bride of quietness, thou foster child of silence and slow time, sylvan historian, who canst thou thus express a flowery tale more sweetly than our rhyme? What leaf-fring legend haunts about thy shape, of deities or mortals or of both, in Tempe or the dales of Arcady? What men or gods are these? What maidens laugh? What mad pursuits? What struggle to escape? What pipes and timbrels? What wild ecstasy? Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Therefore, ye soft pipes, play on, not to the sensual ear, but more endeared. Pipe to the spirit ditties of no tone. Fair youth, beneath the trees, thou canst not leave. Thou song, nor ever can those trees be bare. Bold lover, never, never canst thou kiss. Thou winning near the goal yet, do not grieve. She cannot fade, though thou hast not thy bliss. Forever would thy love, and she be fair. O happy, happy boughs, that cannot shed your leaves, nor ever bid the spring adieu. Unhappy melodist, unwearied, forever piping songs forever new. More happy love, more happy, happy love, forever warm and still to be enjoyed, forever panting and forever young, all breathing human passion far above, that leaves a heart high sorrowful and cloyed, a burning forehead and a parching tongue. Who are these coming to the sacrifice? To what green altar, O mysterious priest, leadst thou that heifer lowing at the skies, and all her silken flanks with garlands dressed? What little town by river or seashore, or mountain built with peaceful citadel, is emptied of this folk, this pious morn? And little town, thy streets for evermore will silent be, and not a soul to tell why thou art desolate, can e'er return. O Attic shape, fair attitude, with braid of marble men and maidens overwrought, with forest branches and the trodden weed, thou silent form dost tease us out of thought, as doth eternity, cold pastoral. When old age shall this generation waste, thou shalt remain in midst of other woe. Thine hours, a friend to man, to whom thou sayest, Beauty is truth, truth beauty, that is all. Ye know on earth, and all ye need to know.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think that's about?
It's about, well, I mean, there's lots of questions throughout the poem, and the main response that he always gives to these questions is that you should embrace beauty as beauty and not to interrogate or sort of try to interpret it. Right?
Resisting the demystifying nature of modernity.
Yeah, it's resisting sort of the need to go for truth as the ultimate thing. It's you go for love and beauty as the end in itself.
That's interesting because then, like in, both in Plato and in Christianity, love, truth, and beauty are all seen as the same thing. Love is the truth.
Yeah, but I guess when in modernity, which we're covering a lot of people with, they're sort of critiquing the idea that sort of in our time, love and truth are now separated.
Sure, and that you can scientifically, through some kind of rigorous logical process, come to it. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. That is interesting. Dominik.
All right. Am I heard?
You are. I can hear
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Does your headphone not work? Or?
Yeah, no, I was just checking. So Lord Byron, I guess in his life, even though he only lived till he was 36, it's somewhat the opposite of John Keats. Not miserable at all. I mean, he did suffer, to an extent. His father died when he was young. He had this kind of birth defect in his right foot, which it's actually hard to find precise information on what it was, but it caused him some amount of pain. That being said, he was a very active. He's kind of the most active person you can think of, just socially in his work, in anything that he wanted to do. He was quite
Extroverted.
Quite extroverted, but he was also quite
Industrious?
lively, quite industrious. But I mean, industrious might imply a kind of like furious like work ethic. It's not that sort of thing. It's much more a kind of natural disposition to just being alive.
I see.
And he was known to be very charming, and very attractive. But at the same time, he was kind of an arsehole. I mean, he was.
Yeah.
He was not a great guy. He's like the all-time philanderer. What I mean, at least one illegitimate child.
At least,
He left his family when his family that he had he was married in I think 1815 and had I think 2 children. I can't remember with his only wife, who he was cheating on.
Quite a lot of times as well, with quite a lot of
with quite a lot of
I think him and Shelley mirror each other in this. I mean, they're both big cheaters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even though I would say Byron probably beats him.
Yeah.
Not just as a cheater, but like before he was married, after he was married, he was also bisexual. He would just go for anyone. I mean, yeah.
He's got a reputation.
Yeah. But,
Okay, interesting.
The way he seems to frame himself is not really as a kind of a moral person, or maybe he really doesn't care about morality, which might be the kind of essence. Well, one of the main ideas of Romanticism is that the way people view him and the way he views himself, he seems to have the correct kind of sentiment about life, and he seems to love truth and beauty, and therefore he seems to be, in the eyes of many people and probably in his own eyes, kind of redeemed, despite his his personal failures.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's something that Blake struggled with a lot, because he believed in, like, he was inclined to this, I don't know, I hesitate to call it Greek, but this idea of free love, maybe akin to what you see with the hippies. But then he kind of came to realize that that's not exactly sustainable or there's not really much prudence or wisdom to it. But
Byron certainly didn't live long enough to come to that realization.
Okay, interesting. Did he? Sorry, I have a question. Just to go back a bit. Did he grow up wealthy or?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, he was a lord,
He was a lord,
so
yeah.
naturally.
Right. Okay. Yes.
And,
He was the
um,
richest out of all.
Since we've been talking about all these poets' means, his means were just his the money of his family
Yeah.
for almost all of his life, and the money, essentially the money that he'd loaned. I always forget the money he'd borrowed, and he would just run away from his debt collectors. He went to Europe to run away from his debt collectors. Then he came back
Classic.
to England.
Classic Georgian technique.
He lived in England for about 5 years. That's where he got married. His daughter, I did not know this. This is crazy. Is Ada Lovelace, one of
Oh,
the
yeah.
progenitors of computer science. So it's very interesting.
That's funny.
Also, I think he has a direct lineage back to someone that came across and invaded England with William the Conqueror
Wow.
with no breaks.
That's interesting.
So he's from like
Old
big family.
Old noble stock.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is kind of another romantic idea, or like especially it's part of what makes someone Byronic or like a Byronic hero is that he has this like he has a claim to like essentially he's an aristocrat. But he does everything in his power to kind of sully his reputation as an aristocrat, which is
yeah.
kind of like it's kind of the romantic notion of being an aristocrat in a way is that you can kind of you can kind of do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And you can throw your and you can like act, you know, not really respect your own social status, so to speak.
Right.
So he did that a lot. Yeah. As for his life story, I mean, it is very interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it's mostly comprised of he lived in England, he went to go about tour Europe. He came back to England where he was published, and for about 5 years he was a very famous, well-respected poet living in England. Then he got married. He was cheating on his wife. Everyone knew about it. It was a scandal. His wife left him. Then he just went off to live in Europe and in the Mediterranean for the rest of his life. And then in the last, I think, 2 years of his life, he was essentially fighting for Greek independence against the Ottomans.
A noble fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a very interesting thing that I think a lot of scholars these days don't really believe that he was really doing all that. He was doing all that much. He was kind of just like a romantic figure.
A lot of what I heard was that people in the Greek forces were just asking him for money, and he was kind of going, maybe.
Yeah,
I'll write you a poem.
yeah.
Well, I think as well, doesn't he die trying to plan a battle, and then he just gets really sick?
He just gets sick, which is quite an unfitting, but definitely a poetic end to his life. That he's this kind of man of action, and he was almost gearing up to die in battle, right? And then, well, no, he just gets sick, and then he just dies.
Anticlimactic.
Yeah, I think he actually dies of a cold because he had a kind of immuno disease, and then the bloodletting made it so that he got a cold very easily, and then he did more bloodletting done to him, and then he just died of a cold.
Is that why? Does that not work?
I mean,
You're looking at me as if I know.
Bloodletting?
I think bloodletting doesn't always not work. People do still use.
Really?
leeches
Okay, I was
to-
being facetious.
Oh right.
Yeah.
I mean, people do still use leeches, but I
Wait,
think in this
I
case,
just did it this morning.
Tom,
I'm feeling good now.
Tom, I actually have one question for you.
Yeah, go on.
Would you let them like drill a little hole in your skull
To
to let
let the evil spirits escape, or
Yeah.
what? For what? No, I don't think I need that. No.
But like that would like I don't know. That would like be like so like liberating. Like you have like you know.
Well, you know what's amazing is that people actually survived it.
yeah, obviously.
That's not obvious to me.
Yeah, I don't know. People
If you
do
protect-
survive a lot.
If you protect the hole, then
Well, you know, the skull
be
is
hard.
there in lieu of a hole. You don't need a hole. The skull is already. You don't. To me, it's like you're creating a problem.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you are. It's
obviously
not
you are.
medical.
Yeah. I'm being.
Shall we focus back on
Okay.
Byron?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
all
yeah.
right, all right.
So that's essentially his life story. Also, another thing, he was a scholar of the Armenian language, and he did a lot of translation. It was a kind of just mild obsession for him. I think in it was during his stay in Venice. There was an Armenian kind of monk, or priest, who kind of just taught him Armenian, and then he did some quite useful and relevant translations.
He wrote the first dictionary between English
Yes,
and Armenian, which is crazy.
That's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
So anyhow, this is the poem I've chosen. Before I read the poem, I will. Well, actually, no. I'll say the name of the poem is "A Spirit Passed Before Me," and then in brackets from Job.
Okay.
And the passage of Job this is referencing is here. It's Job 4, verses 15 to 17. Then a spirit passed before my face, the hair of my flesh stood up. It stood still, because I could not discern the form thereof. An image was before mine eyes, there was silence, and I heard a voice, saying, Shall mortal man be more just than God? Shall a man be more pure than his maker? So that's the passage from the Bible. And that's not Job speaking there, that's a friend of Job's called Eliphaz. And this is I think this is in the section of the book of Job before Job goes through all these trials. He's kind of just debating spiritual matters with his friends. And so here's the poem by Lord Byron, entitled "A Spirit Passed Before Me." A spirit passed before me, I beheld, the face of immortality unveiled. Deep sleep came down on every eye save mine, and there it stood, all formless but divine. Along my bones the creeping flesh did quake, and as my damp hair stiffened, thus it spake. Is man more just than God? Is man more pure than he who deems even seraphs insecure? Creatures of clay, vain dwellers in the dust, the moth survives you, and are ye more just? Things of a day, you wither ere the night, heedless and blind to wisdom's wasted light. And that's everything.
Very nice, short and sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I keep using these two because they're the two I'm familiar with, but both Shelley and Byron are incredible at painting a rich picture with a very short poem, and I think that's a great example of it.
Yeah.
What's the themes of his like poetry like generally?
It's in large. I mean, I haven't read very much of it. There are a lot of works that are romantic. I mean, that sounds like romantic in the sense of romantic love, but also in the sense of deep personal feelings, even in platonic relationships. Many odes to his friends that passed or that were still living. It's often quite worldly poetry, in the sense that it's not concerned with spiritual matters, but it has a lot of the worldly, and it has a lot of references to kind of battles and the kind of, I guess you could say, the politics of the time. He wrote it's a satire called Irish Avatar as an example, which was a kind of satire against George IV's visit to Ireland, and his kind of his warm reception. Byron wasn't very happy about, because he thought, these people are oppressed and they're just going to like let him.
So there's no
come over here
connection
and
to
say
the James Cameron franchise.
No.
Oh, okay, just checking.
But he
I think he was loosely inspired by it.
because he was a lord, but he criticized the Irish people for being too friendly.
Yes.
With the British people, he was like, "Dude, you're getting oppressed, dude. You should be Republicans."
He stood up for a lot of people.
Luddites.
The Luddites, yeah, that's the main one. And I mean, I know a lot of the places he lived, because he often lived around Nottingham. His main family home, Newstead Abbey, is just up the road from me. He lived in his mother's house in Southall for a while. But yeah, the Luddites were attacking the industrial machinery in the lace mills in Nottingham.
Yeah.
And they were going to get the death penalty. I think maybe they did in the end, but he advocated against that.
Interesting. Well, you know what's interesting too? Do you know who his cousin actually was? Was the sheriff of Nottingham.
Different
I'm trying
time.
I'm trying comedy, but you guys are not receptive of it.
Well, I understood it. I just,
Right, okay. Blake, I was very interested to find, made other forms of art. And indeed, he's not quite, but almost as famous for his painting as he is for his poetry, and the two are considered kind of inseparable. Yeah. Did any of your guys' poets make any other forms of art? I know you mentioned political writings, but...
I mean, I think I mentioned as well, Shelley wrote a couple of novels, but I don't think there was... And he made a couple of dramas, actually.
Oh, really? That's interesting. I wonder what...
And essays, but yeah.
Sure, yeah. I wonder what the novels are like. I'd be curious to read them, actually.
They're both very early on in his writing, so they're both written in 1810. So
1810,
he
okay.
is 18.
Yeah.
I think they're probably not as good as later works.
It's kind of kind of early Gothic.
Yeah.
1810.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's interesting because the second novel is listed as a Gothic novel, and obviously then when him and his wife at the time, Mary Shelley, go to Geneva to meet Byron, they're both plagued with visions and nightmares, and his are just destructive, whereas she is inspired to write Frankenstein. It's interesting that he never delved back into fiction while she did.
Yeah.
I think maybe he helps her with a novel at some point.
Okay.
They make 3 works kind of collaboratively, but I think they're mainly listed as her works.
Interesting. It's funny this period. Well, 18th and 19th century British writers are far more collaborative than those of the 20th century and 21st century today.
Certainly.
I was kind of surprised to find out how many famous poems are collaborative works or even novels. It's interesting that sort of gone out of style. But one thing I would like to discuss in the couple of minutes we have left is the influence and legacy of these figures. So I guess I kind of allude to the fact that Blake, just by nature of the fact that he was interested in these very eternal themes that were not particularly topical, remains relevant. And I meet people all the time who are not particularly interested in poetry who know him and like him. So I think he's very well and alive, his legacy and his work. How do you feel about Byron and Shelley and Keats?
Well, one thing I can say about Byron is the influence on Nietzsche, because I quite like Nietzsche. It's very strange, actually. But Byron was... You could kind of think of him as like an image of what Nietzsche would have wanted, or the type of man that Nietzsche would have wanted to be. An interesting fact about Nietzsche is that he hated Germans, though he was a German. Even the people he was blamed for kind of fascism, he hated this kind of German nationalism.
Sure.
And he actually wished that he was Polish, and he specifically had a theory that he was descended from Polish nobility.
Yeah.
And so this idea of like nobility runs through Nietzsche's work, but then there's also an idea of being a free spirit and being a kind of person who challenges morality and is immoral. And I think
that is very Byronic.
It's very It's kind of the essence of what makes something Byronic, because he saw this person that was that had every social status, but then could still negate it.
Yeah.
And that was something that I think Nietzsche loved. And then also his immorality as a person, I think is well. So
we're about to run out of time. I was going to say that they both live on through the people they inspired in the Victorian period and beyond.